Dear Lovetuner family and fans, I have a good friend of mine here. It's all about love, Ali Love.
Hey Sigmar,
Um,
how are you?
Good. How are you? How is it in London?
I'm good. I'm just been quite busy working, pretty tired, but it's nice actually. It's spring is in the air here, so finally it's kind of
You
it's
made
good.
it through winter. That sounds good. Yeah. We just talked about it. Normally, you spend your time in between England and then in winter, you actually are in California most of the time.
I used to be, yeah. I mean, God, I used to live in West Hollywood and used to live on the hill above the Chateau Marmont actually, which was wicked. And yeah, I used to stay there from kind of January till March, and then go and play Get Lost in Miami with Damien Lazarus's party.
Very
That
nice.
was a good run because you got back like end of March just for the spring. But I've had to knuckle down this time, but it's all right, man. It's all right.
Yeah. And there's a big
What's going
change in
on?
your life. There's a big change in your life too. The baby's on the way, right? You
Yeah,
had to
that
calm down.
really came out of the blue. Just so there's a lot of there's a lot of action at the moment.
Nice, nice,
There's a lot
nice.
of action.
You know, like your T-shirt says it, your stage name says it. It's all about love, and this is how we connected. Actually, we connected in the love frequency of the Love Tuner in
Yeah.
588 hertz. And I think before we go deeper into your work and how you integrating the love frequency into a new project, let's do one quick tune for our listeners and for us to get in the right mode. Nice.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know what? It has been quite sort out this thing. Just a
Yeah.
few moments, and it's been nice to connect to you in these dark days.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. You know, so like
battling.
I would like to tell our listeners a little bit more about you. And I mean, some of them know that Love Tuna is like we are going so many different alleys. We're working whatever with veterans, we're working with kids, we're working with schools. But obviously, it's the Love Tuna is an instrument, and music is like on the top for me personally. And this is why I'm super honored that a great singer, songwriter, DJ, producer is taking this on, you know, like because you guys living the rock and roll life, you're flying around the world playing gigs, like what happened to be the rock and roll bands in the 70s. This is what DJs are right now. Electronic music is super hip. They're having the biggest concerts around the world, the biggest festivals. So normally there's no need for you to change anything because you're successful, you're making really epic music, you work with the biggest names in the industry, just to name a few, like the Chemical Brothers, Camel Thought, you know, like you have your own band, Hot Natured. It's a lot of stuff that you're doing, and
Yeah.
Damien Lazarus that you just mentioned. So what do you think is like the real journey into a music that can heal in the future?
Um, yeah, I think a lot of people at the minute are taking stock of stuff, and I think a lot of people had to deal with themselves a bit. Um, and a lot of people have been in a bubble. They've been just really kind of, almost lost in the kind of the lost in the just the day to day and how it was before. But I think a lot of people have had to kind of take stock and kind of look at themselves a bit. And I think I think there's going to be a lot of good music and good stuff coming out of these dark times. I think people have to look within and I definitely have had to kind of you suddenly realize, what have I been doing for all this time, and like some of it was good, but some of it was really destructive, the kind of lifestyle I've been living. And learning how to master the art of staying awake for like 4 days without batting an eyelid, this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
which it's kind of, when I think about it, it's like I've been in the army or something, I've been like through the mill, and traveling. But yeah, for me, it's when coming back to the frequency of stuff, I've always found sometimes you just naturally channel something. And the best songs that I've kind of, I feel that I've done, I have, a lot of them have been kind of almost like something else is channeling through you. An addiction to, which is the one I did with Hot Nature. That's one that seems to be one of the most channeled kind of love frequency that was kind of feelings, you know. You know, people come up to me, said they, you know, played it at their best friend's funeral and stuff, you know, stuff like this. I did want to play this track, but it's not quite ready to play you. But you know, it's good. It's good. This thing, you can actually just play chords around it. I really like, you know. Basing chords like that around it. I'm finding loads of chords to play with it. So pretty soon you're going to get a track, man. It's going to happen.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. You know, like, because I need to explain this a little bit more, what we are actually working on. So we're basically working on the first like real dance floor music, electronic music composed by you in the key of 528 hertz. And just to tell the people what it's actually happening when you do this. So you make a sound carpet of the frequency, but what it also does is like, because our musical scale is out of tune. So normally the A tone should be 444 hertz, and this would resonate in 528 hertz. So like in the love frequency or divine frequency. So adjusting the synthesizer basically means that you're in harmony, and you not necessarily will hear it unless you ever like you're a musician and you hear exactly the pitch. But what it basically does is it brings people in harmony, and it just gives you a better vibe. And it's still, you can still compose whatever music you like to do. And what I've seen also, like, you know, the place where I live, and I'm very into music, and also not only electronic but music, like people who play rock and roll. And what they all told me is like when they start playing with the 528 hertz frequency, it somehow elevates their own frequency. And then I think in the long run, the idea would be to get people elevated, you know, like when you look into big dance parties, if the frequency would be right, you know, it will enhance the all over feeling. You know, people would connect in this frequency, in a so-called love frequency, because our hearts are always curious. We always want to connect. And what is nicer than to be on a dance floor, being in the right frequency and listen to some really cool tracks, you know, and connect as in unifying, you know, like, because when people are in the same frequency, if they would even tune to this music, they would really feel a very strong heart connection. And this is basically what we are working on. And we just started. When did we start? Like before Christmas, I think, right?
Yeah.
And but you tell us a little bit more in how you see it, where you want to drag it to in the long run when it comes to music, to festivals, etc.
Well, I've actually been working on a, like, more, as you said, like a more dance version, and I'm just really, it's really interesting how it's turned out. You know, the first time I even heard about all this frequency stuff was from a guy called Lee Mathers, who was a singer in the band. He lived with me for a while. I used to live in a house with this guy called Drew McConnell, who's a bass player of this band called Baby Shambles with Pete Doherty. And it was a mad house. And just like this is like when everyone was more kind of indie, 2007, 2008, 9. It was like London was more like being like, it was very rock and roll. Everyone had the rock and roll Beatles haircuts, and everyone looked like the Ramones, really. And so did I. And he was all about the frequency, and he told me about how it got changed. I don't know who changed it. It was it was the Rothschilds or someone like this. Concert pitch got introduced, I think, in the 30s, wasn't it? I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was. But
I mean, it changed it quite. I mean, like, it got changed from a lot of institutions. The first one was actually the church, but in the medieval. And then you're completely right. It was like before the Second World War. And the idea was literally to bring people in disharmony.
Yeah. So he got me into it. He's the guy who wrote There She Goes, and that track, How did it go? Yeah, that track.
Yeah.
There she goes. That one, there she goes. Everyone knows that. He was like an oracle, this guy, Lee Mapper. So he's the first person who got me into the whole frequency thing. And then it's just been now, and my friend Richie Ahmed is really into it as well. I think he's done a label called 500. Was it
28 hertz? Yeah.
528. I think it's called. Is there another one called 4? Is there another frequency that's 4 something?
It's harmonious frequency, but it's not a healing frequency. It's like talked about it. It's the frequency what is based on the golden ratio, and it's 432 hertz versus the 528 hertz, what is a universal frequency that occurs in every living matter. And it's you can find it in the universe, you can find it in the humming of the bees, you even find it in chlorophyll in plants. So this is why it's such a special frequency, and it's one of the 9 Self-Actu healing frequency, and it's the most prominent one, and this is why you call it the miracle or DNA repair frequency. And I mean, this is why for me, musicians and especially nowadays electronic music is so interesting, because it is the music of the new spiritual revolution. Because every revolution had this music, we had in the 60s, we had rock and roll, and I believe that now the electronic music, because it's so easy to integrate binary beats, to integrate the frequency into this kind of electronic music, I think this will be a big game changer when more and more DJs and producers are getting, more knowledge about it, that they can really literally heal and make people happy beyond what is already happening at these big festivals or big clubs. And I mean, for me, I know basically every place where you played before. So I was very much into the scene, and it was a big thing for me, like in the 90s. And when everything started, I was still back in Europe. I was a lot in Berlin and in Ibiza. So I know all this background from this kind of music. But now it's just interesting because so many people who went through all these phases in the last 20 years, when there comes a spiritual awakening, then suddenly everything becomes, you bring more awareness to stuff. You just don't go out and whatever you do bad stuff, because what frequency basically does. Whatever you connect to will resonate with you or don't resonate. If you hang out with people where you dig their vibe, this is something positive. If you're in a surrounding where you like the frequency, it's positive. And if you can enhance this in a dance environment, in a concert, in a festival, then people are like just this little bit much more happy because they're in harmony.
Yeah, I mean, it's really mad to see what's happened with a lot of my friends and how massive they've got and what kind of audience everyone has these days. And I think the more people can kind of try and put these kind of things into music is cool. I'd like to put it to Hot Nature, to be honest, because we're going to start making more music, and once we start gigging with those guys, it's quite a big affair. We play like Coachella and all this, and really, it's always quite an occasion when we actually get to play it. There's talk of a gig in Croatia, and making more music. So it'd be good to. I've been talking to the guys about it a little bit as well. So it'd be good to get things. I'd love to see a track, played to a massive crowd with this frequency and see what happens. I mean, that would be really cool. So that can happen, man. That can happen. It's easy to do. You just say, hey, let's do this, and things just happen, isn't it? It's ideas turn into action, turn into reality, don't they? I think.
Yeah. And this is the cool thing, because all the DJs, I mean, all the people that you're working with, in the States, Camelphat is huge. You're working on the new album, what I heard, and all this stuff, what is happening right now, it just takes one person. This is always like, if you reinvent something or if you come up with something new, it always takes one guy that said, listen, this is something that can really enhance what we are doing. And, and I mean, I'm happy that you're open to it. And this is why we will create a lot of cool stuff in the future with Lovetuner, with the frequency, and combine it to whatever is out there, because there's no limit to music, and this is the beauty. And if this matches the frequency and the music harmonizes people, I think that's actually the actual goal. And we talked about also that a lot of people who make the music, the artists themselves, it's like there's so much pressure on them. They're playing for so long gigs, they're out and about for so long. And what basically is happening when they're up on stage, they are actually above their crowd, it's like, and whatever they take to get there, some stuff is not really healthy, as we know. But what you could do is, when you use this frequency, you can connect way more with your audience. Like, it's not that the eyes on you and you're out there and you have to take the full pressure. With the frequency, you can be a part of your own crowd, like, because you connect from heart to heart. And then it's not a one-way street where you give all the energy and they consume what you're doing. So it's a give and take, like, so people becoming one in this frequency. And this could be a beautiful exchange of frequency, a beautiful exchange of energy. And obviously love is the highest frequency in the universe. There's nothing above it, and it's not the love between man and woman or humans in general. It's just the frequency of love. And this is what can elevate our minds, what can elevate, also the way we interact in normal life.
It'd be interesting to see what someone like massive, like Beyonce, or someone, if someone just made, someone who would have that kind of huge daytime radio appeal, which is not really my bag, but like, that'd be interesting to see if someone of that kind of caliber if they did a track with the Lovetuner. Sure. Mad to see if, like daytime radio, you're driving along in the car and you're getting the vibes.
Absolutely. I mean, like we talked about it, and I mean, this is pretty common knowledge for people who, research frequency. I mean, John Lennon, Imagine, he composed it in 528 hertz. And so this became the biggest love and peace song of all time. And it's just interesting that he had this knowledge back then already,
How did you come across this actual thing, this design? How?
It's when I was already meditating for a long time, and on accident, actually, I got reconnected to an old friend of mine who was working on this and had actually the idea already about doing something with the frequency. And I remember my first experience was 528 hertz. It was in a guided meditation, and it was called the Aqua Journey, and it was literally the sound of water and the frequency. And it was we did a breathing cycle with it, and it was very interesting. And back then I meditated already for 7 years, and everything what I have experienced before this was nothing compared to connecting the meditation with breath work and the frequency. And basically all this breathing, the frequency is connected in this thing. And consciously what you do actually is, and what you never, and this is what I experienced mainly, is nobody breathes really. So we all, running through our day. And unless you do yoga, unless you're really into meditation, you never take your time to take a conscious breathing break. And this is what you do with this thing. You inhale, you exhale, then you connect to this frequency. And obviously just the idea of inviting love in your life changes it, and we all know this, there's so much stuff out there from Emoto in his book, the hidden messages in water, or secrets that are captures in water. And what he was doing basically is, like, he traveled around the world and he was freezing water and he looked at it under the microscope. And I mean, our body is, whatever, when we are adults, more than 70% water. So obviously we resonate like water. And this is where the whole thing actually started. It comes from the knowledge of what it does to water. And when you play the 528 hertz frequency to water, the water molecules align and it makes a perfect hexagonal crystal shape. We have it on our homepage. People can look it up. But the interesting thing is that exactly this happens in our body. So you use this tuner, you exhale, it makes the sound that we just showed before. But while you play the sound, like this frequency literally goes into your body and it goes measurable 8 feet out of your body. So even somebody who's close to you gets your frequency. And this vibration, and this is why it's an instrument and not like a whatever, an electronic device. It's an analog device.
That's the size of your energy field, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can see it because this is when we talk about heart coherence. Like the heart is like has a way better, a stronger energy field than, for example, our brain. And when you use this tuner, it aligns the water molecules in your body and gives you this feeling of relaxation right away. And this is just a physical thing. Then comes on top of it, the intention that you put out there. And if you go with an intention like spreading love, I mean, your name says it, the frequency says it. It's a positive thing, And when they looked into Emoto's work, like if you put like whatever hate speeches to water, the water changes the molecules. It doesn't like it. If you play, for example, old Mozart, old classical music to water, it aligns right away and it structures. So this is basically what happens when you play the tuner, but also when you compose in this frequency.
Wow. I can't believe the water thing. That's just mad. I mean,
yeah. So this is why we joined forces on this, and this is why we're gonna go out there. We're gonna make some music in this frequency, and you're gonna educate your friends and DJs, and let's get this community growing. That you produce whatever you want to do, but just do it in the key of love.
I'm in, man. I'm in. It's work in progress, and I'm sorry I couldn't actually play you it now, but obviously I'm running around like an idiot.
I know. With the baby on the way, I totally get it. No, yeah. But like we're gonna as soon as the song is ready, we're gonna launch it. We're gonna share it with our community, and then we're gonna be back for the next chat.
Definitely.
Yeah. Hey, brother, always a pleasure. Take care. Good luck. Take care. Bye-bye.
Peace.